Hi you guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in growing zone 8B in southeastern North Carolina. So fall is the time of year when we're planting, when we're beautifying some of our spaces in the sense that the temperature has gotten a little bit cooler and it's not so devastatingly hot to work outside. So right now it is time for me to beautify my area in front of my greenhouse, my pathway, the entranceway, and then I will eventually have to start working inside the greenhouse as I am preparing to overwinter my plants in there. So this video has been filmed in little tiny drips and drabs, not because I wanted to show off costume changes or anything like that, but because I start working on the job and then something takes me away, and then I start working on the job again and something else takes me away. So you may notice different clips with different clothing and that sort of thing, and that's the reason why. Do you remember what the entrance to my greenhouse looked like in spring? Very, very different than it looks now. First of all, I had a beautiful vignette set up outside of the greenhouse. I had been working on the pathway to the greenhouse. Everything looked so fresh and neat, and now how does it look? Kind of scraggly and a little bit overgrown. So I have weeds growing into my gravel, and of course I don't want to use any sort of weed killer here at all because I don't want my plants on either side to get affected. So I have to deal with that. My banana trees have grown so much. I'm not even sure what to do about that. We had talked about how much banana trees grow, and I'm thankful for the grove I have. I'm thankful for the height on these guys. The thing is, I think as my banana trees are making babies, and this one right here is the most perfect example, I keep getting additional growth that's coming in this direction. So even though it's a large chore, I'm going to have to separate my banana trees. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that right now or if that's actually something I'm going to do when spring comes. These guys are going to be completely cut back, and we're just basically going to have like the trunks of them left, and then I'll be able to maybe see a little bit better how to divide these up. But moving some banana trees is something that has to happen, and like I said, beautifying this area again for the brand new season feels like something else that I would love to tackle. So now that you've seen some of the other clips that have talked about what I am doing in this space, I want to get back to this area over here with my arborvitae line. Now I'm lucky because I have this Dragon's Breath celosia planted here, which is only an annual, so that color is not staying, but it's looking good, it's large, it's starting its flowering right now. Love that. This week, it was on my mind to go to the garden center and find some yellow evergreen shrubs. I was looking for something like just the round green or round yellow shrubs that were evergreen that I wanted to plant in between each of the arborvitae, but to the front. So this way I always had the green of the trees and the yellow of the shrubs, well, evergreen. Except I went to the garden center and they were $35 each for like a ball this big, like the size of my purse. And I just couldn't do it because I need 1, 2, 3, at least 3, depending on how I do it. So in the vein of continuing to garden on a budget and all of that kind of stuff, I was racking my brain trying to come up with an alternative to fill the space still but instead of spending $35 per evergreen, do something in a different way. So I actually got my husband involved in the creative process to think about this, and he suggested that I do this. For the time when our daughter was younger, we had some gymnastic bars that we had built ourselves, and they were just part of our landscape. And we had these 3 posts cemented into the ground with horizontal bars on them for climbing and flipping and all the fun things. Well, now that she's older, we've taken them out of the ground, and we had them just sitting behind the shed in case we can come up with a project where they were necessary or we can use them. Well, guess what? They can be useful now. What my husband's idea was, and I like it, is I cut up each one of these posts into 3 pieces of 3 differing heights, kind of to mimic the look of pilings that you see like by boat docks or, you know, down by the water's edge and that sort of thing, which, you know, we live in coastal North Carolina, so those types of things are everywhere. So do something like that, a grouping of 3, and then I will have 3 of them, possibly each one wrapped with line, you know, like boat line, so like the white thick rope, something like that. I don't know. Another thought is right now they're stained the same color as our fence. I could possibly keep that for the cohesiveness, you know, of the area of the whole yard, or I could possibly sand them down and repaint them with the blue stain that I used on my walking path for my secret garden, as well as the blue garden bench that I have in the yard over to my side. So I haven't decided what I'm doing because I just only unearthed these from the side of the shed today. So I need to clean them up, cut them to size, and then we're gonna go from there. So here we are. Yes, it's yet another new day because, you know, life happens when you're making videos. So yesterday I had gotten all of my posts cut to size, and then we were just experimenting with how we thought they should be arranged, I guess is the right word. This is the arrangement that we're going for. So I have 36-inch post, a 30-inch post, and a 24-inch post. They look a little bit tall maybe right now, but also we have to bury them in the ground a little bit so that they don't get blown over by the wind. Now I had 2 options for the rope that I'm gonna wrap these with, because again, I'm not looking to buy anything here, so it's just whatever I had. This is literally the only boat line that I had. First of all, I didn't really love the white on this anyway because this rope is old and a little dingy and not a lot of it. So I couldn't wrap 3 posts significantly. This is the other kind of rope that I have. This one is long enough to allow me 4 times around my set of 3 posts, which is chunky, which is what I like. So since I have more of this, and I also like the color combination here, this is what I'm going with. So my husband is off to locate some very long screws so that these 3 things can be attached to each other, and then we will wrap the rope around them. So in the meanwhile, I have more work to do over by the greenhouse. So in the meanwhile, I got lots of junk to clean up right around here. So for example, the broken pieces of my greenhouse ceiling that are very brittle, like awful. So I have some pieces that are just on the ground, need to clear those up. I also have pots kind of all over the place because, you know, you take things out, put them in your landscape for the growing season, and the empty pots are just sitting there. So I just got to organize myself a little bit. I even have some pots and stuff strewn about off to the side, all of that good stuff. But then the next thing that I'm going to do is, oop, there's a lizard right there and I don't want to scare him. I want to move a couple of big pots like this one here with the cordyline and the purple heart This right now is attached to my irrigation, but quite honestly, as the temperatures cool and the irrigation is used less and less, it's no big deal for me to disconnect that and then just water it where I want to move it to. So I'd like to take this pot and put it right in front of the entrance to the greenhouse and kind of beautify that area again so it looks inviting and gets me excited for wanting to spend time during the colder months inside the greenhouse working and creating and all of that lovely stuff. So this pot for one, and I'm probably going to have to enlist the help of my husband's muscles to get this one going, and then we're going to see what else we could put up there to make it look awesome. I am so thankful that I like the way this looks. You're never really sure when you're creating something outside of the space, when you bring it into the space, if it's gonna work. But I think it does. It actually warms up the area, like in terms of color. I feel like the warmth of the color of the stain helps to break up the black mulch. Obviously, the structures take up the space between the trees, so I love all of that. This little baby right here was not centered in front of him, whereas all the other plants were centered, so that's why I just moved this one over a little bit. I'm so thankful. Even though the Dragon's Breath Celosia will not stay here throughout the entire winter, which is a shame and a bummer, these plants will not either. But this now is a piece of even my winter garden, so I'm thankful again for just filling up that space. So now is the fun part. I kind of did the nitty-gritty work of the day. Now I get to beautify the entryway as we walk up to the greenhouse. I'm looking forward to putting some plants up there, some garden decor up there, and we'll just see what takes place. I didn't have the muscle that I hoped for to help move this pot, so I did have to drag it over, but so be it. You can see the Purple Heart is so very, 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 very long that it's been draping on the ground, and it was doing that over where it was in the Secret Garden pathway area. Because of that, all the bottom pieces were rooting in the ground. So I left them alone because the Purple Heart will be perennial for me, so if I want to leave them in the ground there, they'll come back again next year that way. But in the meanwhile, I need to do some more trimming back of some pieces that have lost their leaves because, you know, they kind of got crowded out, something like this, or these long draping pieces that are just going to be touching the ground. When they go into the greenhouse, it's not necessary to keep them that way. You can root the Purple Heart in water. I've said that many times before. This is just so super easy to clip. I don't even really care. I'm not particular about where I clip it, and then I just put it in water and let it go. I can also reroot this in soil, whatever you want to do. The Purple Heart is super easy to do, super easy to propagate, and so I'm going to keep these in here because I do like to give these plants away to other people. So I'm just going to do some trimming up of this guy, but I think this is basically its new home, at least for maybe the next few weeks. It's sort of funny when I think about the ending and how everything turned out, because it probably really doesn't look like a lot of work or a lot of time went into it. But if you think about how much time you spend just weeding or clipping back trees or bushes or something like that, and then add in all the time for creating things and planting things and all that kind of stuff. So it's always a bigger project than you imagine. So anyways, we look here to my pathway, again, starting with the Dragon's Breath Celosia. I'm so glad I have that there. My new little pilings, if you will, and of course I have my jack-o'-lantern, I forget what you call them, luminary bags, except they're ceramic, so they're not gonna go anywhere or blow anywhere. And then the plants that I put up toward the front of the greenhouse are literally all things that are going to be overwintered in the greenhouse except for the mums. So the cordyline, the Purple Heart, the tropical hibiscus, the snake plant, the begonia, the oyster plant down here, all these things will eventually be living in the greenhouse. So it sort of makes sense to start changing things around, bring them closer, and then that's gonna be their new home. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me. The beautification process, I feel like, is really wonderful to see because I always like to see people's end results. And now it's time to rest. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, happy planting.